Hey, Mike here, welcome to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be changing the front brakes of my Saturn Sky, but before I get started, let me go ahead and show you what I'm going to be using. I have some gloves which keep the hands clean. Got some heavy duty paper towels, but you can obviously use whatever paper towels you want. I'm using the Power Stop Evolution pads. They don't stop as good whenever they're cold, but once they're heated up, they work very well. I use them for autocross, and I'm pretty happy with them. I have the brake cleaner that we're going to need. I've got a bungee cord that we're going to use to hold the caliper up whenever we're working on the pads. And I got the tool to recompress the piston back into the caliper. I got a T30 Torx bit socket that's going to be used because our rotors actually have that little extra screw in there to hold them down. Here are the actual brake pads. They're carbon fiber and ceramic. There's very little dust with them, which is what I like as well. And here's the little clips that actually comes with the kit, along with the little rubber bushing grommet things, whatever you want to call them there. We have the brake lubricant we're actually going to be using on the caliper pins. Some sort of a breaker bar. Some of those might be a little bit tight as far as the bolts. And I got a 15 millimeter and a 14 millimeter socket they're going to be using for the bolts, and then a torque wrench as well. So there you have it. That's pretty much everything we're going to need for the installation for the brakes. And let me go ahead and get that started. The one thing I did forget to mention is I did pick up some new rotors. These are actually cross-drilled and slotted rotors. These are from Power Stop as well. These are identical to the ones I already have on there. Alright, so I already got the car jacked up, the front wheel off, and I actually turned the steering wheel to the right to give me a little better access to the caliper and everything here as well. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what bolts we need to do to take out to take this caliper off. Alright, looking at the caliper here, we can see there's actually a bolt on top here, and then there's another one right down here on the bottom. Where we at? There we go, right there on the bottom. Those are the two they're going to take off the caliper. And then once we get those off to take off the rotor, there's two other ones. Let me see if I can get to them here. One is, where are we at? Oh, right in front of me. One is right here. Let me zoom out, right here. And then there's another one on the bottom as well. And once I get the camera on a tripod, I'll kind of show you how to do that. But anyway, here's the caliper. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to loosen these two bolts here. And that way I can take off the caliper, take a look at the brakes, see what that squealing is. I'm assuming that it's going to be because the brake is low and the that noise was going on. But anyway, let me go ahead and take this baby off. Okay, so these bolts are actually 14 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen this up. It might actually be tight, or it might not be. I guess it depends on when the last time you had your rotors taken off or checked your brakes or anything like that. So that one was pretty easy. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom one. Alright, those two bolts are loose, but what I need to do is find a place to hang this caliper, because I don't want the brake lines to be kind of pulling on with this caliper. So what we're going to do is hang it up to keep all the tension and everything off of the brake lines. Otherwise you're going to run into more of a problem. So I basically have a bungee cord, and I'm going to wrap it around this top arm here, control arm. So I basically have the two ends here that I can go ahead and hook the caliper onto, so that it just kind of hangs there comfortably. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen, take these bolts all the way out. There's the one. Here's the other one. So then this just kind of wiggles its way out and slides past the pads. And there we go. Caliper is off. Now I'm just going to go ahead and hang it on the bungee cords by both of the bolt holes there. So there we go. It's kind of dangling there nice, and there's no tension or anything on the actual brake line itself. So let me go ahead and take a look at these brakes, the brake pads. Alright, this is actually kind of interesting. The pads don't look too bad. here and here there seems to be a lot of meat on them as well, so I'm not sure what that squealing was. And if I look at the rotors, they're actually not that bad either as far as any scrapes or anything like that as well. But so maybe it was just a I don't know, a hard spot or something in the pad making that noise. But since I have it all apart, I'm going to go ahead and replace them anyway. And to do that, you can see we actually have a clip up here, a clip down here, and the pads actually kind of sit inside that clip. So take the front one out, you just go ahead and just pull it straight out. It comes off real easy. And I'm just going to set that down here. And then the back one is the same way. You just kind of like pull it right out of the clip area. And there it is. And like I said, there's a lot of meat still left on there, which is pretty amazing considering how much autocross I do and how hard I am on these brakes. Now looking at the caliper itself, let me take a look here. Let me get the light better here on it. Alright, upon inspection of the caliper and especially the piston, we can see we got a problem. The boot that goes around there is all cracked and losing some fluid. So that is not cool at all. This is creating a new issue that I'm going to have to deal with now, and I'm probably going to have to go ahead and replace the actual calipers themselves. So I'm going to make a quick phone call and see if I can get the caliper. I'm going to assume that the passenger side is going to be the same way. Okay, so I got some calipers that are going to be coming in, some brand new ones. So while I'm waiting for that, it's probably going to be here in a few days, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to replace this rotor. But like I said, this rotor is really not too bad as far as the condition, but since I have it all apart anyway, I already have the rotors, I'm going to go ahead and redo those as well. So let me go and get this started. Okay, like I mentioned, for the caliper bracket, there's actually 2 bolts. This one here, and then there's this one down here as well. Those are 15mm bolts. Those ones are probably going to be a lot tighter, so you might need some sort of a breaker bar or some human strength to get those off. And if you need to, you can use some PB Blaster to kind of loosen those up as well. Let me go and loosen this up, take this caliper off, and we'll go on to the rotor next. Like I said, this is a 15mm bolt, and hopefully it'll come off easily. I don't know. I know these are tight. Let's see if I can get a better angle like this here. Might be blocking the camera. There it is. Right. So actually that wasn't too bad. And I'll do the same thing on the bottom. There we go. Alright. So both of these actually are unscrewing pretty easily. Let me get the camera in here a little better for you. Right here. And then here's the bottom one here. Take it out, put it to the side. And actually I forgot to put on the blue gloves to keep my hands from being dirty, but oh well. Maybe when I put everything back together I will. So anyway, here is the caliper bracket. It's off. Alright, so here we have the rotors. Mine are actually cross-drilled and slotted as well. Here's probably, if you didn't change your rotors at all, you probably either the stock ones, or if you just went OEM, they're probably just the flat one. Doesn't really matter. As we can see, there's actually a little Torx screw that's in there. That's a T30 Torx. So we have to go and take this off. It kind of holds the rotor in place while you're installing everything. And we can take that out and replace the rotor and put it back in. There it is. There it is. Kind of make I don't know if this makes any difference or not, but you can see there's two of the bolts here that you can use, or 2 of the holes here. And then there's the one. I'm gonna see if that matches up with the new ones that I have, and I'm just gonna make sure I put it in the same one that it was. I don't know if that matters or not, but why be different just in case? So let me go look at my other new rotor. Alright, so here's the old rotor still on there, and this was the hole that we took the screw out of, and you can see these rotors are identical. They have the 1 hole on the top, 2 holes on the bottom, so this is the one that I'm going to be screwing into. And like I said, I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but I'm just going to put in there anyway. But before I put it on there, what I need to do is clean the front and back of the actual rotor part here, because a lot of manufacturers, they'll have some oil and stuff like that on there. So we want to make sure we get all of that off of there before I go and I install it on the actual car. All right, I got my brake cleaner. So I'm just going to go ahead, make a mess, sprays everywhere, and it's going to go ahead and clean it all off. Get rid of any kind of residue that might be on there, might not be, but it's always nice to have them clean anyway. And I'm going to go ahead and do the back side as well. Here, I put this paper towel down and it's going all over the table anyway. So let me get another piece here, a dry piece. And there we go. Driver's side is done. And let me go and do the passenger. Alright, those are both done, and let me go and I'm going to go install the driver's rotor. Alright, now that the rotor's all cleaned up, I'm going to go ahead and make the swap. Actually, looking in here, to be honest, this is kind of rusted and everything now that I see this. So I'm actually going to go ahead, while I got this all apart anyway, try to clean this up a little bit, get rid of some of this rust before I put the new rotor back on.
2 days later.
Alright, so I got my new calipers in, and I got them from Brian Cooper at Kappa Haas. He is extremely knowledgeable about our cars. He also does repairs, he does LS swaps in our Skies and Solstices, and a really cool guy. So if you're looking for any kind of parts, or if you're looking for any kind of information or anything like that, please contact Brian Cooper. I believe his website is kappahaus.com. That's H-A-U-S. It's kappa, H-A-U-S.com. And I'll put a link in the description below. But a really nice guy, had exactly what I needed, and I use him for any kind of questions that I have. But anyway, here's the two calipers. Driver side, passenger side, obviously. And it actually comes with the brackets as well. I was kind of wondering if that was going to be the case. I was thinking maybe it was just a caliper, but it actually comes with the caliper brackets. Also, which is nice, all of the hardware and everything as well. So those are good. The only thing it doesn't come with, because it's part of the brake line system, is the banjo bolt that actually goes in here, where your fluid goes into. So I could probably use the old ones, and I would just have to get some brass washers, but I just went down to the auto parts store, got a couple of new ones just to have them. Along with the brass washers, you need 2 for each one, and that's about it. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing installed, and hopefully we'll be done soon. Okay, I pretty much put everything back together again the way it was, all with the old stuff, and the main reason is because I need to crack this bolt open, and this is actually a banjo bolt. It actually has 2 holes in it that lets the fluid, brake fluid, come through and go into the brake piston. So what I'm going to do is like I said, I'm not sure how tight this is going to be, and I want it to be nice and solid. So I'm basically going to crack it open, tighten it back down again because I don't want it leaking, and I'm going to take the old caliper off, put the new caliper back on, and then hook this line into the new caliper, put the new brakes on, and it'll be good. So one thing you need to know, because I've already done the passenger side, is there's 2 washers on here, one on the top, one on the bottom of this bracket right here, I guess you could call it. The bottom one is a real pain in the butt to get off of. It's probably crushed in there, which is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to keep this from leaking. And I basically had to take a little screwdriver and kind of get it away from the end of the bolt, and then I was able to actually end of this piece right here, and then I was able to use a pair of needle nose pliers to kind of hold it in place, then kind of just turn this bolt and kind of pull it out of there. So everything's gonna be nice and new as far as the hardware, and I still have to change. I put the old rotor back in there too, so I'm going to change the rotor, do all this fun stuff, and hopefully get this done really soon. Yeah, one other thing before I get started, I actually just put a box down here, and the box is what I'm going to use to hold the old caliper on there to keep this line nice and loose, and it'll actually hold the caliper on there while I'm putting the new one on. Kind of get it out of the way without having it hanging around and dripping, possibly dripping brake fluid all over the place. It's going to drip it on the box instead. So just want to tell you that is what I did. Alright, this is an 11 millimeter banjo bolt. Oh, and there we go. Okay, so it's loose. Let me go and retighten it. You can see it's already dripping fluid there. Get on there and tighten it back up again. But not super duper tight, because I'm going to take it off again. But anyway, that kind of cut it loose, because you saw how hard it was to pull that off. I didn't want to do that while it was dangling. It's much easier while it's already on the actual brake itself. So, alright, now I can go ahead and start unbolting the bolts in the back, and you saw me do that earlier on in the video. So I'm going to take this caliper off, set it aside, and then start putting the new one back on. Alright, so the caliper is off. Everything, the brackets, the entire thing. In fact, I even have the old pad still in there. Just basically took the whole thing off because we're not going to need it anymore. The only thing I'm going to do, once I get the new one on, is just transfer this line, the brake line, over to the new caliper once it's installed. But right now I actually got to take the old rotor off, put the new one on, and that'll be a piece of cake. But one of the things I kind of want to show you in the back as well is there's actually, let me see if I can get back here. There's actually 3 bolts that you want to check and tighten. There's one here. Let me see if I can get it without, where are we at? One here, and then there's another one right up here. You want to make sure that these things are, first of all, there. I've actually heard some people say that they're actually missing. And then you just want to, since everything's all apart, you want to go ahead and tighten those all down, just to make sure everything is there, because that pretty much keeps the hub attached to the control arm. So, like I said, I've heard some people, these things are actually missing, or maybe one might be missing. So make sure 1, you have them, and 2, they're nice and tight. Okay, before I tighten them down, I just want to let you know that it is a 15 millimeter bolt that's on there. They're on the back here. So get your 15 millimeter socket. I'll be honest, I'm not sure what the actual torque spec is supposed to be. I'm just going to check them, make sure they're still tight and not loose or anything like that. Okay, I got the new rotor on, and now I'm just going to go ahead and install the new caliper. Before I actually add the caliper, I got the caliper bolts, actually caliper bracket bolts, and I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of Loctite on there, just so they don't kind of back out on me at any time. So you just want to add a little bit on there just to keep those bolts in place, so like I said, they don't back out on you. Okay, now I got the new caliper. I'm going to put it in place, and the hardest part is actually lining up the bolt and that top one. Usually I do the top one first, and hopefully it catches, and actually that one cut pretty quick, which is kind of unusual. So the first bolt is in, and that should actually make the second bolt on the bottom a little bit easier. Okay, that one's in there. Just hand tightening it for now. Alright, these caliper bracket bolts actually get torqued down to 80 foot-pounds. There we go. There we go. Alright, both of the bolts are torqued down. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to install the brake line now. Okay, so this is actually the banjo bolt, and you can see it has a hole in the top here and there's a hole in the bottom, and this is what lets the fluid flow through to get to your caliper piston. So there's actually 2 washers that go with it as well. There's a larger one that's going to go on the top, and then once we get the brake line in there, you'll see a block thing, and then the smaller one on the bottom. And then basically whenever you torque it down, it's going to crush the brass washers in to make a nice seal. Alright, so there's not a lot of room here, so I'm going to try to show you guys what I'm doing. But I'm going to go ahead and loosen this back up again and take it off. And unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of, well, maybe not a lot, but brake fluid's going to be coming out. Okay, and there it is. And you could probably use the current one, but you got to get this washer out of there because it's the old washer that's already been crushed. Since I got to do that anyway, I figured I might as well just go ahead and replace the whole bolt. And this is the hardest part, is trying to get this washer out of here because it's kind of crushed inside there. And I'm going to try to do my best with a screwdriver. Alright, it did take some work, but I was able to get the washer off of there, and now I can take the old banjo bolt out, put the new one in, And then with the other smaller washer, put it on the bottom. And I'm just going to go ahead and attach it to the caliper. Alright, it's attached. Now I'm going to try to clean up this mess because brake fluid is kind of damaging to some rubber parts and paint and things like that, so I just want to clean it up. Plus it'll make sure it's nice and dry whenever I'm checking it and bleeding it and everything else. Okay, so now just a little recap. We have the brake line attached to the new banjo bolt. It's attached to the caliper piston. So now I'm going to go ahead and add the pads. And to do that, I'm basically just going to loosen this one bolt, actually take this bolt out, drop the caliper part down. That'll give me the area where we're going to actually put the pads in, and we can just flip this back up again. Now I'm assuming, because everything is brand new here, this is an actual OEM brand new caliper, all these pins, actually the two caliper pins on the top, one top and one bottom, one's down here, should already be lubed up and everything. It's all sealed, everything's all kind of put together nicely. So normally what you would do is you would actually check, if you have your old ones, you'd actually check the pins in there, clean them off, add some new grease, because if they're older, new grease, you want to keep those nice and lubricated so that this can actually go back and forth. But I'm not going to do that simply because, like I said, these are brand new. It's already sealed, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave them there. So, so if you're doing a normal, just a brake pad job, this is something you want to do, is just double check these pins, make sure they're nice and lubricated. So I'm going to go ahead and take this top one off, like I said, drop it down, and then we'll go ahead and install the new pads. Okay, the caliper bolts on the top and bottom are actually 14 millimeters, and like I said, I'm just going to undo the one. Okay, there's the bolt here, and now I can just kind of like let this kind of come down. What I need to do is turn actually getting some tension on the brake line. So let me go and turn the wheel a little bit so that there's no tension on this brake line whenever I lower this down. Okay, so I take this brake clip out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lubricate inside this area here and this area here, because those are actually where the brake pads are going to slide. So you kind of want to get those nice and lubed so that there's no noise, and it makes it very easy for the brake pads to slide back and forth. My brakes came with some lubricant, so you could, if it didn't, you can go ahead and buy some at an auto parts store. But I'm just going to go ahead and use what I have here. I'm going to put a little inside there and kind of move it inside there just to kind of get that lubricated a little bit. And then same on this one, put a little bit inside there, now you start to see, and move that there. And then put the clip back on. Try not to touch the lubricant with anything else. Whoops, upside down. Alright, clips back on. I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom one now. Again, inside where the grooves where the brakes are going to slide back and forth. So there, and inside on this one, put a little bit more as well. You don't need a whole lot. Alright, and then we'll go ahead and put the clips back on, like so. Okay, now with the brake pads, what you want to do is you want to lubricate the back, which is here. You don't want to lubricate the actual brake pad itself. You have some problems if you do that. You basically want to lubricate the back, and then the two little slots here which go into the brake clips. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit on here. Like that. Actually, I have enough on my finger, I can do it on this one as well. There. and then also on the back here. And this will make it slide around, hopefully get rid of any kind of squealing or chattering or anything else that's going on. So there we go. And now I'm just gonna go, like I said, you don't want to touch the actual pad, and put it in here and just slide it in. That one's installed. Now we're gonna go and do the same thing for the back pad. Now you notice the back pad, you can tell it has a little sensor for whenever the brakes are getting low, so that way you know it's the back pad. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to go ahead and lubricate the back of the pad and the two ends. Okay, now with the back pads, we're just going to go ahead and put them in that slot as well, the top, the bottom, and they're in nice and tidy, like so. And there's, like I said, there's the front pad. And I know it's hard to see, but there's the back pad. I got this light hitting me from outside. Alright, when you're replacing your pads, it's most likely that the piston ring is going to be out further, simply because it is pushing on the pads, and as they wear down, it actually comes out away. So what we need to do before we can put new pads in, we have to push the piston back in, and to do that you would take an old pad, just kind of press it up against there, and then you would take your tool, you can buy it in the auto parts store, and you stick it down in like so, and then you would just turn it. Let me move this camera back a little bit, and you just turn it to tighten it in. And what that'll do is that'll actually push the piston back into the piston area, I guess. And that is pretty much how that works. And when it's pushed all the way in, you just take it back out, remove this, and like I said, your piston ring will be, or your piston would be back in a little chamber there. So I just have to close up the caliper, but because everything here is new, this will just be able to easily slide up. And right here, I just need to put this top bolt back in, like so, and tighten that one down. So the other thing we have to do now is go ahead and bleed the brakes. Okay, now with the caliper and the pads installed, we're going to go ahead and bleed the brake line, get any air that's going in there out. And here is the bleeder valve. Just take off this little rubber cap that they put on there. See if I can do it with one hand. There we go. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to loosen it. Whoops. I'm just going to go ahead and loosen it, and then just let it gravity bleed it first. Okay, so I got my wrench here, and I'm just going to loosen it. Oh. Oh, actually I did loosen it. Okay, so I loosened it here, or did it? Yeah, there we go. So I'm just going to let it sit for a little bit. I kind of put some paper towels around it just so that it doesn't make quite a mess. And what you might need to do too, to kind of get it flowing, is to undo the reservoir cap and see if that will help it. But we'll just let it sit here and see if it starts bleeding out using gravity. Okay, here it is. You can see it kind of dripping there. So I'm going to go ahead and just close it up real quick here. And what I'm going to do is bleed it, bleed the whole thing now. Alright, so I have my little bleeder contraption I made here. And in another video I kind of showed you how I made it and how I bled the brake, so I'm not going to do that here. But what I'm going to go do is loosen the valve, and my wife is actually going to pump the brakes and get it. Wait a second. Start pumping out any air that happens to be in there, and you can see some coming out now just by me opening it. A little bit more. Alright, you can see air bubble coming up there. Alright, go ahead and hit the brake. There we go. You can see some air bubbles going there. Hit it again. Okay, again. You can see some more air coming out. Keep going. We're gonna keep doing that until no more air comes out. One more time. I think we're good. One more time. Good. Okay. I'll go ahead and tighten it down. Alright, and that's that. Alright, so they're all done. The only thing I gotta do now is put the wheels back on, take it for a quick drive. There's actually a break-in pads procedure that these particular ones entail. And then just come back, make sure nothing's leaking, and we should be good for a long time. And of course, the other thing I gotta do is now take these nice shiny silver calipers and paint them red. Alright, that's the end of this video. I'm all done. What I thought was going to be a simple pad and rotor change kind of took me down the rabbit hole of changing the pads, rotors, and calipers. A little more of a pain in the neck. Still not too difficult, just a little more involved. And I hope I was able to show you pretty much how to do it. If you like this video, please hit that subscribe button. You can see what videos I'm going to be coming out with in the future. Hit that little notification. It'll tell you what videos I'm coming out with in the future. And hit that like button because everybody likes likes. So that's it, and I'll see you in the next video.